SailingWithAndy here back in China, and I wanted to make a quick video for you guys to share a little bit about my expenses, about how much it costs to sail the world. And if you guys are new, I'll just break it down for you. I had a 30-foot sailboat, Cape Dory. I'll show you a picture here. Oh, there. So there is my boat. Now, it looks really good right there. By the end of the trip, it did not look that good. It looked significantly worse after crossing the Pacific Ocean. But, so that was my boat, 30-foot Cape Dory, 10,000 pounds. Great boat, really seaworthy, beautiful. I loved the lines. I loved everything about it. So yeah, that was me. I left Seattle 2012 and I sailed 12,000 nautical miles in about 1 year, and I went to many different countries crossing the ocean. So here's my route: Seattle, San Fran, Hawaii, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Palau, Philippines, and then let's see, Borneo, and Brunei, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. So that was my route. That's the boat. And here is how much it costs to sail the world. So let's check this out, because I get asked maybe twice a week, like, how much does it cost? And I would always ballpark, like, I don't know, maybe $800 a month, or I mean, I didn't know. So I added it all up, and I was surprised. I was, and not a good surprise. But let's take a look and see how much this costs, and maybe I can help you guys try to plan it for any kind of trip that you guys want if you're going to do any kind of extended sailing. So let's look. All right, so July 12th, 2016 is the one I left. I spent $4,000 in the first month, and I bought a couple things to get prepared. I bought a wind vane, battery rack, whisker pole, solar panels, controllers, food, fuel, lines, everything that I thought I would need. You know, it took me 3 weeks to get my boat prepared. I quit my job, I think, mid-June, and I left July 12th. So 3 weeks, $4,000. Just working on the boat, getting everything that I thought ready. Okay, so I leave Seattle, and the next month I'm in San Francisco. It was only, I think, 10 days from Seattle to San Francisco. And you can see the next month, $486. That's not that much. And because I was, eating a lot of the food that I already bought, the only thing that I really had to, my expense was, I had to get a new battery charger, a couple days in a marina, food and fuel. Okay, so then from San Fran, next passage was going to be Hawaii, 2,100 miles. Yeah, I was really scared. 2,100 miles, about, I think it took me 19 and a half days. But yeah, $578. But I learned a lot on that trip, and I learned a lot about how I wanted my boat to be. And so when I got to Hawaii, first, there was a lot of hurricanes crossing the ocean. I think I had 4 hurricanes pass me on that 20-day passage. And then by the time I got to Hawaii, there was another hurricane that was barreling down on the Big Island. So I had to go to Oahu, and I stayed in a marina for 1 month. And there, I got everything that I can imagine for my boat. So I had more solar panels, solar panel mounts, some things. I had some administrative costs with my Coast Guard documentation. And I think, just lots of food and tools, and daily trips to West Marine there in Oahu. But that month kind of stung. That was $3,300. I left I left Hawaii mid-October, and it was another 2,000-mile passage to the Marshall Islands. And by the time I got there, it was $755, and my only expenses were food, fuel, parts. I broke a couple of things going over, but there's not, once you get out of the United States, you're not going to be spending that much money on parts or anything for your boat, because there's nothing there. There's no chandlery, and it's just impossible. And unless you want to wait 3 months to have something arrive by ship from the US, yeah, you're just not spending that much money. So from the Marshall Islands, the next month, $760, and it was just food, fuel, immigration fees. And then from Micronesia and Ponape, I went to the outer islands of Chuuk and Yap, and so that was $730. So these are about the average expenses. These are about the average expenses if nothing's breaking. About $730, $750. And let's see. Oh, and I forgot to say, I have a little bit of positive cash flow coming in here. You can see a couple months. So these were some donations. And I think this is when I started my Patreon in Hawaii. So that was my first Patreon. I got $230. That was great. Thank you guys. And then $1,300, a lot of money came in for me for not having a job. And so I used to do a lot of investments and swing trading and day trading. And I just speculated on the presidential election, and it worked out in my favor. And so the markets reacted very favorably. But managing investments and trading is not really, I think, feasible when you're sailing, because internet is a problem. The time zone's a problem, and yeah, and you're sailing. You don't have the time for it. So I didn't really rely on that at all. I think I stopped trading after November. Moving on. Back from Chuuk to Palau, $450, not bad. And I had, so from Micronesia to Palau, I had a partner from that I met in Ponape, and she was from Germany, and so she split the cost. So you can see in Palau, it was not that much money, but Palau was very expensive. The immigration fees just to dock the boat was $200, which was the highest island, or the most expensive island anywhere in the Pacific. So yeah, I think, but I didn't spend like anything out of the ordinary. Again, it was just food, fuel, and immigration fees. So up until now, not so bad, but the next couple months get expensive. So let's talk what happens. Okay, from Palau to the Philippines. All right, so my boat went through hell and back crossing the ocean. So many storms, and just, wear and tear, and things constantly falling or thrown across the boat, and lines snapping. And by the time I got to the Philippines, it was time to get to a boatyard, and my transmission failed about 400 miles, I think, off the Pacific coast, off the Asian Pacific coast. So I didn't have an engine by the time I got to the Philippines, and so I had to get my transmission rebuilt. And like I said previously, it is very hard to source boat parts outside of the United States, and I assume Europe. I've never sailed in Europe, but I assume they have ample stock of boat parts in Europe. But in the Philippines, it was actually cheaper to take my transmission out, fly back to Seattle, have it rebuilt, and fly back to the Philippines than to source it locally and have it rebuilt, and the quality would be questionable. So that's what I did. I flew back, and I had to get, it was a good time to get some things repaired, and I opted to get my Dodger rebuilt and a hard Dodger installed. So that was $1,500. Transmission was $1,500, and so my next month, $3,000. And then I had to spend a lot of time just waiting for everything to get repaired and fixed. And by the time I left, my next month was $2,000, but I was completely stocked up with food, new transmission, new Dodger. I was ready, and I landed in Borneo. Okay, so from Borneo, I went Malaysia, Brunei, a little bit of Indonesia, but I didn't check into the country, so don't tell Indonesia. So Indonesia, and but it was quite expensive because from Borneo to Singapore, I got caught in a storm, completely shredded my head sail. I have a great video about it. I would check it out. Yeah, anyways, so that was pretty expensive. And then by the time I got to Kuala Lumpur, my dinghy had completely just disintegrated, and it was impossible to source any kind of dinghy that was adequate for just ocean going sea travels. So by the time I got to Kuala Lumpur, I had to get a new dinghy, new head sail. And my heat exchanger on my boat blew. And so I think those 3 months, money was just leaving. So anyways, as you can see, those months were quite expensive. And so let's see the grand total. This was exactly 1 year. We have July 2016 to July 2017. The grand total is, bam, there it is. Total was $21,000. I had about $5,000 of positive cash flow, so my net expenses was about $16,000. Now, if you're to look at that at a monthly cost, $1,300. That's not that bad. And I broke a lot of things, and I think, hindsight's 2020. I definitely could have done things smarter, but sometimes your back's up against the wall when you're in far off locations and you have no other choices. You just have to get out your credit card. So $1,300 a month is what I paid on average. I think, if the sailing gods are shining down on you and you're doing full-time sailing and nothing's breaking, you're gonna look to spend about $750 a month. And then if things break, sky's the limit on your cost. But yeah, so that was my cost for 1 year, $1,300 per month, or $21,000. That's expensive. It was a lot more than I thought it was going to be. I thought maybe it was $15,000 total, but yeah, I guess, I just didn't keep I didn't keep track that well because, there was no point. I knew how much money I had in my account, and I knew how much money I was going to need to keep sailing, which I had enough money to keep sailing. That's not why I stopped. Kuala Lumpur was the halfway point from Seattle to around the world. It was the halfway around the world from Seattle. And I just didn't want to keep going and go back to Seattle yet. And I wanted to, explore Asia and, keep doing what I'm doing. And so now I'm living in China, and I'm making a lot of money, and I think, in about a year, I'll be back to even, which is great. And in about another year, I'll have, even more money to go do my next adventure. So anyways, I hope this helps. I'll write more about this in my blog and probably give a lot more details about, my expenses on how you can actually save money. I mean, there's some things, I wasn't living extravagant at all. There was nothing luxurious about my life. There's nothing luxurious about taking a shower once every week or once every twice or twice a month. There's nothing luxurious about that. Yeah, I hope you guys see this video, and if you're thinking about sailing the world, that this maybe gives you a little bit of reality of how much it costs. It can be done cheaper. It can be done a lot more too. I think the older people that were sailing in their 40, 45-foot boats were probably spending $40,000 to $70,000 a year. And, we're going to the same locations. We got to see the same beaches and, drink the same coconuts. And so the experiences were all the same. It's just how much you want to spend. So anyways, I hope this helps. If you have any questions, go ahead, leave me a comment or send me a message on my blog. And I'll be sure, I'm going to make a couple more videos also to talk about more about the equipment, on what I found helpful with my passages and what maybe is a waste of money, so that you don't have to spend that money. But anyways, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Hey, real quick before I go, I just watched my last video, and I was like, oh, I kind of talk like $21,000 is not that much money, but it was a lot of money. That's a lot of money to me. And I don't come from, a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that. A lot of that money came from my private retirement that I had. And so it was a big drawdown, but I knew I had enough time that I could spend that money and be able to replenish those funds within a certain amount of time. So yeah, I might talk like, well, it's just $21,000. It's so easy. Anybody can do it. I know it's not possible. And I sacrificed a lot, and leading up to it, I saved a lot. I minimized all my expenses for 4 years and just saved and stocked away everything that I earned. So yeah, I don't want you to think that it's out of the realm of any average person. You guys can do it. You can do the same thing that I did. You just have to make sacrifices, and it has to be a priority. So I just wanted to put that in there before I actually say goodbye, because I watched the video and was like, whoa, I just talked like $21,000 is, so easy. Everybody can do it. I know it's not easy. So I want you to know that, yeah, I got both feet on the ground, and it was actually a lot of money. Okay, bye.